Hi, I'm Ed Painter. Welcome to my home in Cohutta, Georgia. You're watching the Painter series on Delay and Block Productions. Well, the main line is the H line, which is on the west side of our property. That line is the main line between Chattanooga and Atlanta, Georgia on Norfolk Southern, former Southern Railway main line. Quite a few trains a day on that, bunch of intermodal, grain, a number of through regular merchandise freights, ethanol trains periodically, really very active line. With PSR, there's less trains right now, as well as the issues that are going on with the virus, but still an extremely active line with lots of traffic. The other line is the I line or Cohutta district. It connects the H line at Cohutta, Georgia to the A line at Cleveland, Tennessee. The A line runs from Chattanooga to Bristol, Virginia / Tennessee. Not a whole lot of traffic on that line these days. Historically, that line saw a lot of coal traffic from southwestern Virginia, East Kentucky, southern West Virginia, going to smaller coal-fired power plants in the south. But with the changes in rules and such with the use of coal, that a lot of that traffic's diminished to very little. My former wife, who's a good friend of mine, we were going over to see my daughter, one of my daughters graduate from UTC, and we talked about getting some property in North Georgia, and we were driving through Cohutta and noticed that this land was for sale. She actually did. So we went and did some inquiries and ended up purchasing the land. Well, it was an ideal location to build a house because you had this great vantage point for both these two rail lines from the house. And it's a pretty piece of property too. It's about 33 acres. The field, the majority of it is, my neighbor cuts the hay on it every year for his cattle. But great location for a home that, would provide the opportunity to see trains. And so I found a Southern Living house plan for the home that had nice porches, and I came out and did a little studying on how I wanted the house to lay to get the best views of the railroad, both from the porch perspectives and also from the windows. I added additional windows in the house and expanded the porches. So it really provides a great platform to watch trains. Well, I've got a large sound DCC railroad that's being built downstairs. This is in the construction phase. The main lines are up and operating. Got to do a lot of work getting the yards finished and so forth and so on. But primarily, I've named the railroad the Virginia, Piedmont, Appalachian, and Western, sort of a combination of the Southern and foremost the Norfolk and Western railways in Virginia and West Virginia, that kind of thing. So one of the things we like to do is have a gathering at the Model Railroad on Sundays on a regular basis in the afternoon. We probably have anywhere from 10 to 20 people, although we try to limit it to being less than 15 just because it gets to be crowded with it. So we come down, we run trains, we may work on the railroad some. I even since I'm 70, I put young people to work sometimes in the yard. Not really, but doing some helping with some things around the house. We grill out. Mike Binkley usually grills. Sometimes Robert Duncan comes in and cooks a little bit too. So we grill and have various things along with that, with dinner. Soft drinks, very minor amount of beer, but beer is available too. And we just have a good time, fellowship. Trains go by the house, people take pictures. Just have a good time.
We have hamburgers. We have long smoked Wisconsin hot dogs. We have Johnsonville imitation brats, and we have sweet and spicy sausage along with Oscar Mayer hot dogs.
Lots of pollution downstairs. Coal, coal-fired power plants, paper mills, all kinds of stuff. Coke ovens, just wonderful. Not a place you want to go if you don't like pollution.
I love it. I love it.
It's just we've got jobs downstairs. We've got jobs on my model railroad.
No Green New Deal on the painter railroad.
No. We don't even. No, that person wouldn't even want to be in my basement. It's nice to be able to share this with people, and really some pretty darn nice people overall that are into model railroading and into rail fanning. So it's sort of fun. I've had friends from England come over and visit for a week. I've had people from Indiana, various parts of the United States come and visit, as well as lots of local people from the Chattanooga area to Atlanta to Knoxville to whatever.
Good train running and socializing, and just friends getting together and doing what they like to do together. Too many times we all go to the track to watch trains, we're by ourselves or whatever, but just being together is what it's all about, and I enjoy doing it, and that's why I try to come to Ed's as much as I can.
Danger Douglas, what's your favorite part about hanging out here at Ed's?
It's like a mini vacation.
He does. He's got the vacation home.
Yeah. If I want to get away, I'll come out here.
The only thing that Ed's missing, I think, is the passenger car caboose that he can rent out as an Airbnb.
Amen.
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 Yeah, we cut all the brush down here, cleared it all out, put some chairs in place, and sort of hang out here early morning to midday. You've got pretty good shots both directions depending on the time of the year. So it works out pretty well.
What do you like so much about watching trains here in Cohutta?
Well, it's easy. It's in my yard. It's really easy to do. It's a lot of traffic. This is a very heavily trafficked line, in that it's between Chattanooga and Atlanta. You've got traffic from Chicago and places like Bellevue and other places up north that go to Atlanta, Jacksonville, Savannah, whatever. You've got traffic from Rossville, Georgia, and Memphis that comes through heading to Savannah and or Atlanta, and I guess actually there were some trains to Macon at one point too.
So I take it that your favorite railfan buddy is right here with us.
Yeah, Calypso does pretty well. She behaves for the most part. There's a couple of buzzards that are roosting in my barn, a little room in my barn. She hates the buzzards with a passion. So she's all tore up about the buzzards right now. If she had wings, she would eat them up. but she can't fly, as most dogs have that inability. So she's just where she is. You're a happy girl. Oh, what a happy girl.
So Ed, what train are we shooting right now?
We think this is going to be 23N, which is Atlanta to Rossville, Tennessee, which is out near Memphis. It's a new intermodal terminal NS built within the last few years near Memphis.
Awesome.
And this train's supposed to have a bunch of NS power leading it, but it's supposed to have both UP and BNSF power trailing. NS very frequently on 23N runs power back to BNSF for UP in Memphis, turns it back over to him, gets it off NS.
Didn't know that.
So that's probably what they're doing here today. So too much excitement.
Guess so.
Calypso, are you excited? You excited? Oh, you're excited.
She's the best.
Just stay there, do like you're doing. So you're the dog.
lot of these trains that come by here, all the crews seem to know you, and they'll blow the horn when they come by your house to say hi. What's it like seeing all these guys that come by your house and ask you for their picture?
Well, I mean, you get to know them when trains have been stopped, and you're out taking pictures. You get to know them personally, and then you'll actually through Facebook, a whole lot of them became friends, and then they'll send me texts in advance if they've got a heritage unit maybe or something special, or after I've taken a picture they'll send me a text or email and rather a text or message and let me know they're on this train and would I please post their picture for them or something like that. It's pretty interesting. Pretty good bunch of guys. There's a lot of those guys actually like railroading too. They're not just working for the railroad. They have a little bit of rail fan in them maybe.
Maybe one day they'll change the name of this location to Painter.
I'd rather doubt that. I think it's always going to be MP26H. Flipside, what do you want? You want those buzzers. She wants the buzzers is what she wants. You want the buzzers. Crazy dog. I'm from southwestern Virginia, not too far from Bluefield, West Virginia. I was born in Bluefield because the largest hospital nearby was there. Where we lived in Giles County, Virginia, we had both the Virginian Railway, which was electrified, and the Norfolk and Western, which was steam when I was born. I was born in 1951. My dad was in management at the power plant, coal-fired power plant at Glenlyn, Virginia, and he always had an interest in trains. So from the time I was very little, he had me out watching trains with him, driving around steam engines, electric engines, all that type of thing. And he actually got me some HO gauge model railroad stuff when I was so young that I basically destroyed it immediately upon receiving it. but anyway, so my dad's interest in trains spilled over to me, and he inspired me to really like railroads and railroading. My dad had a very strong work ethic. He was a very, very smart individual, well educated, had a master's degree in engineering, as well as an undergraduate, obviously. Succeeded very well with in his company, getting in upper management with American Electric Power Company before he retired. But so there's a lot of work ethic thing there. He's also a great example in terms of how he dealt with being a family man, for being a good husband, being a good father. Just really good lessons and all those kind of things that we need more of today in this world that we don't necessarily get.
You made the picture again.
Dad was just a good person. He was very well liked. He was very active in community service things. Just very, very good example in all aspects of his life. He'd been an Army officer in the South Pacific during the Second World War, New Guinea and the Philippines. So just a lot of great things about my dad. And he, great guy. We had Y-class locomotives, pulling trains along the New River through Giles County, or going up to Bluefield shopping with my mom when I was little, when they'd be switching the yard. At that time, it was a very active, large yard in Bluefield where you had lots and lots of coal marshaled to go to Tidewater. The yard in Bluefield was both fed by southwestern Virginia coal fields by way of the Clinch Valley line, as well as on up through the Pocahontas fields to Williamson and in that direction. So a lot of activity in Bluefield, and they would switch the yard with Y's. And I can remember people, they would gravity switch cars. They'd have a brakeman ride and turn the brake wheel, to slow down the cut of cars as they made up trains. Because Bluefield's an interesting yard. The center of the yard is the top of the grade, so it's a steep grade, both eastbound and westbound, relative to the center of the yard. So that was quite fascinating. But the Y's, watching the Powhatan era, or the Pocahontas with Jays come flying in. We had a great aunt that we would put on the train and pick up, who lived in the Chicago area. She'd come to Virginia for the summer. She's a school teacher. We'd go up to Bluff City, which was Harrisburg, and the Powhatan era would come in and drop her off, and then when she left, they would come flying in and pick her up. And so just that, as well as just seeing it in general. So those things were sort of pretty cool. And another one I vividly remember is chasing John Henry along the New River on the N&W, and especially stopping at, I think he stopped at Lurich and took on water, which was fascinating. Unfortunately, my dad didn't do photography at that time. He worked many, many, many hours at the 6-unit fossil plant, and he's maintenance superintendent, later assistant plant manager. So didn't get into photography, although his office at the power plant looked right out the N&W main line. He set it up specifically so he could see the main line while sitting at his desk, which was pretty cool. When we lived at Glen Lynn, Virginia, behind the power plant, you could see both the N&W and the Virginian main lines from our front porch. We were literally about 150 yards from the Virginian main line, and you could see the N&W main line through the switch yard at the power plant from our front porch, and couldn't leave the house without crossing the Virginian and or the N&W. So it's pretty cool. And I go down and play on the tracks, watch trains up close and personal, throw mud clods in the coal hoppers from above when they went through the cuts on the Virginia. Just stuff kids do. Or get underneath the end of the long trestles and look up through the ties when a Virginian train went across the trestle. Stuff kids do. Today you'd be scared to death the kid would be killed doing stuff like that. But back then we didn't worry about that stuff. We just had a good time. Probably didn't start photographing trains until the 60s, into the 60s. Dad got promoted and transferred to New Jersey, New York City actually, in 1965. And so the time frame we were up there, I did some photography of Erie-Lackawanna commuter trains we had where we lived in New Jersey. If you went to New York City, it took Erie-Lackawanna electric, former Lackawanna commuter trains. But when you would drive down on Route 22, you could see the central New Jersey, the Lehigh Valley, Pensy was around, all that stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't take a lot of pictures at that time because you couldn't get a driver's license in New Jersey until you're a senior in high school or something. Played football, all that kind of thing, so just didn't have a lot of opportunity. We took a few pictures there, and then when I'd come back to Virginia visiting, we would do some photography too. Initially, even some stuff like Polaroids. I've still got some Polaroids of the Pelican in Abingdon, Virginia, things like that, or else go over to Monroe, Virginia, where we're visiting family in Lynchburg, and shoot Southern stuff over there, and then back in Giles County, you had the N&W in former Virginia, which by then was all N&W. So when I was in college, I got involved very seriously in photography for the first time back in and around 1970, 71. Got really enthused about it, bought my first cameras, and my Secor 35 millimeter single lens reflex camera. And before that, I just used whatever cameras the family had that were not necessarily that good, in terms of quality of photography and whatnot. But then after living in New Jersey for a period of time, and my dad was transferred to northeastern Ohio, to Canton, Ohio. So that's really when I got totally insane about doing railroad photography. We had Penn Central, we had Erie-Lackawanna, we had B&O, we had all the stuff through Canton and Akron, and you go up to Cleveland, you had all kinds of stuff like that. I spent lots and lots and lots of time at Brewster, Ohio, in the Norfolk and Western. They had a significantly large shop facility there that was still operated by the N&W. It had been the former Wheeling Lake Erie Railroad's main shops. The line through Brewster went over and connected to Connellsville with the Western Maryland, and went to Bellevue and Toledo and Chicago the other direction. A lot of through traffic initially until the B&O Western Maryland sort of got into being Chessie, and they did away with the Western Maryland, the connection with the N and W there. But got down at the shops in Brewster. The only way I'd get in trouble when I went down there was not go to the shops and talk to the guys. They would be totally upset if I didn't come in and socialize with them, you know. But so I go to Brewster and then go up to Akron. You had the Erie Lackawanna and B&O and a lesser Penn Central line that all ran together, so you could shoot all those together. You could go up to Cleveland. You had former New York Central, former Nickel Plate, Pennsy coming into with ore trains and so forth from, you know, coming off of Whiskey Island, going to Pittsburgh with ore and so forth and so on. So a lot of interesting stuff. So I really got crazed with all this in Ohio. Same thing with model railroading in Ohio. We belonged to a model railroad club that was pretty active and a good club. We built a model railroad in our basement of some reasonable size, and I got into all aspects of custom detailing diesels and did painted brass for a hobby shop, which worked out pretty well. Maybe I thought I was getting rich if I got $50 for God knows how many hours of painting a brass steam locomotive, but that was sort of fun, you know. But anyway, so yep, the Ohio times in Ohio became pretty crazy with trains.
So you went to college. Where'd you go to school at?
Initially in Randolph-Macon in Virginia, which was not the best experience of my life. I didn't tend to take it very seriously, but the railroad ran right through the campus. So the RF&P became a real, I mean, you literally could see it right from the dorm. You could go out and shoot RF&P anytime you wanted to. Right, literally like right there, you know, went through the campus.
That's
so I
cool.
enjoyed that. But my college career was sort of a what's the proper term, torturous path. But that's just the way it was, you know. Sometimes we're not as mature as we need to be when we're younger, and it just took a while to get all that in order. You know, I've got a master's degree and an undergraduate in management, and I was a manager in commercial nuclear power for a bunch of years. But there's a time in life you probably wouldn't have been so sure that would have ever happened. My degrees are from two schools in South Carolina when I worked for Duke Energy. I worked for Babcock & Wilcox for 11 years out of Lynchburg, Virginia, which provided really nice opportunities for railroad photography. With nearly 11 years as a field service engineer and field service outage management person, pretty amazing stuff you could do with all this. So I had a great time with my job in terms of being able to railfan, you know, and so it worked out pretty well.
That is cool. Ed, it sounds like we got a train coming. Pretty sure that's our train coming from Chattanooga. I think I'm going to get set up so I can get a shot of you.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Sounds good.
You ought to shoot everything. It doesn't cost anything anymore because it's all digital. Back in my day, you know, you had 35 millimeter slides, or you had to pay for it. Well, of course, even with digital, you obviously have storage devices because you have to keep this stuff somewhere, but the expense is very minimal. But I'd say shoot everything to start with, because I remember people telling me when I lived in Ohio that they got tired of shooting F units. They couldn't stand a train with F units, although there were too damn many of them. You know, it's like, so you think about that. So, you know, at some point that dash 940 CW with, you know, what's going on with the rebuilding, so this may become pretty rare. So if you don't shoot them now, you may not get them. Same thing's true of stuff that's gone by the wayside. There are no SD50s, no SD60s, no C39-8s, no dash 840Cs, no dash 940Cs. If you didn't shoot that stuff to the max, so you need to shoot everything. It doesn't cost you anything. The second thing is on storage and filing. I've always done everything by railway, by locomotive number. So a Norfolk and Western engine would be NW 600 or something, which would be a GP9. You know, or Erie Lackawanna would be EL 3605, which would be an SD45. So you file everything by a systematic approach, like EL number, NNW or NW number, PC for Penn Central number. and you keep these files up regularly. You don't let yourself get behind on them, because once you get behind, you're going to have some issues trying to get things in shape. And that also includes, you know, knowing where you took it, locations and stuff like that are important. You need to always put locations with stuff. If you've, you know, so when I go out and finish some digital photography, I go out and I download, and then I immediately within a month will mark everything and edit everything that I intend to keep off of that. And I don't get rid of the originals. I keep all the originals, unedited stuff on there too. I shoot in RAW. You need to shoot in RAW if you can, if you're 35 millimeter. I'm not a digital expert, video digital expert, but we're going to do the best job with that stuff too. But go ahead and get your editing done, get your locations included, have a systematic approach to how you identify things by railroad. I mean, same thing's true if you get beyond locomotives, and you get to cabooses on the NW. You might be NW 518 371, NW 555 450. So again, you can keep all that stuff straight, and then you go and take all this stuff on storage devices, and then categorize it and put folders together based on railroad, put subfolders together based on locomotives, all this kind of thing you can do. Yeah. The video is the one blessing of quasi-intelligence I must have had during the 90s, was I took the time after I'd shot videos to go back through the videos and write down every location with the date and date and location for every shot I took. So if I hadn't done that, when you and I got to discussing this massive video that I had, it would have been a mess trying to figure out where things were, you know. And I'm not going to say I'm 100% correct on what I did, but we're going to be 99% correct on everything we've done, which without that, it's just, you know, who knows. So it's important to take the time to have a systematic approach to marking when you edit, and then filing when you've completed the editing. So, you know, you might have wished you were born earlier, in terms of, been nice to have seen lots of NW steam for maybe 30 years of my life versus only 8 years or so, 9 years. But you know, it's all good. I mean, it's all good, and you still have the things you can go look back at, whether they're books, you know, online things that are, you know, pictures that are online, YouTube, all these places you can go back and look at what took place before. And maybe it'd be nice to have lived in those times, and you know, but it's not a bad time now, because people will be looking back in another few years saying, my God, what happened to those doggone Dash 940 CWs? And they were the locomotive that ran the railroad for years, really got their money's worth out of them. And they're rebuilding them to these, what are they, C6?
AC-44 C6Ms.
Thank you. Yes, complicated designation. But that's, so they're really not dead. They just have a 4000 series number now. You know, they've been rebuilt.
Calypso says enough cream, time to play.
AC power. Yeah, the AC powers are really an advantage. Where'd you come from with that?
I don't know.
God. She got on the run.
Oh my goodness, this dog is something else. He's so funny.
If you're a railroad nut like I am, and I'm sure most of you watching this video would be, this is an ideal place with all this traffic. It's really a pretty piece of property. It's in the country. It's quiet, surrounded by cows and birds, and just, you know, countryside and all, really nice. And a little small community you can get involved in, get to know everybody, and they get to know you. But the trains, I mean, I laid the house out, like I think I said in the other video, where it was laid out so I could see things from certain rooms in the house, the porches, all that kind of thing. So if it's got FedEx in it, in any quantity at all, it'll be 215. 229 usually has a good bit of UPS in it also. I haven't seen any UPS yet. I'd like to thank y'all for visiting me in my home and my property with the model railroad and Norfolk Southern running outside. I would also like to mention that if you look behind me here, there's a bunch of videotapes, VHS and Hi8s that I took back in the 1990s. We're going to put all these we're going to digitize these. We've already actually done the digitizing on them. We're going to make nice professional tapes for delay and block of all this stuff, and you'll be looking forward to this in the future, hopefully. A lot of Saluda, everywhere from Ohio to Kansas City to Virginia to South Carolina to Georgia, just a lot of stuff, yeah.
A lot of stuff to look forward to. So,
absolutely.
Well, Ed, where can they see these videos?
On delay and block.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thank y'all. Bye-bye.